is the person in my circle that challenges me more literally than any other person I've ever met in the way that they pursue their passion, in the way that they pursue their expertise and their craft. And I have no doubts that what he's about to do for you is bring you to your challenge point. And I only expect you now and encourage you now to embrace that. So without further ado, my man, Tyler here.
Guys, I could not be more excited to be up in front of you right now. I believe there's a handful in the audience that have heard me speak before. And if you have, then you'll recognize the passion that comes out. That's something that I'll tell you right away that I'm unapologetic about, is I really care about this industry, about this craft. And so hopefully you see that exude from me today. So with that being said, I couldn't thank CSP, the staff, Sean, enough for having me. This is a real treat. I've had the opportunity to present thousands of times in about 15 countries, and I'm not sure if I've ever been more excited for a presentation than I have from this one. I'm not sure if that's because I only have 3 slides, so I have a lot to remember, and hopefully a lot of discussion and engagement between you guys, but also because you guys may not know me really, really well, may have interacted with me a little bit on social media. If you have or if you do know me, I am a caring, passionate, emotional person. But today, I'm going to care a little bit less about people's feelings. And why I say that is because I am going to encourage, implore, and almost demand you to take a stand for your beliefs and how you view sport movement skill, and specifically skill acquisition, as it pertains to different theories. So with that being said, as we start to let these first 2 slides unfold here, I want you to start to think about, hopefully you already have been with Sean's presentation prior to this, kind of where you stand and how you view, how you set up your practices. Okay, that's a good place to start. Because if you start to work backwards from how you set up your practices, it'll probably present a pretty good idea of how you, or where you position yourself with regard to motor learning and skill acquisition. If you're not familiar even with that, I want you to think about how you actually coach, how you communicate, the relationship that you have with your athlete or athletes. Are you a rep after rep? Are you a rep without rep? Are you a demand? Are you a guide? How do you view your craft? I debated on whether I was going to have caffeine coming into this, and I'm not sure. I listen to a variety of different types of music, but if you guys are familiar with Rap God by Eminem, he has a really, really short flow in there where he says about 100, 200, 300 words, or maybe if we take it a few steps back to Twista, he has a song called Tip of the Tongue, where he literally dumps all these words in this short period of time. I only mention that because if it gets to the point where I start talking very quickly, please slow me down, because I want this to be an engagement. All right, so we're going to jump this off. Information processing theories, IP, or information processing theories. In this view, or through this lens, this can be thought of, skill acquisition that is, as the establishment and subsequent enrichment of internal representations, okay, representations that bring about relatively permanent changes in the learner's movement capabilities. Okay, that was Richard Smith and colleagues. But relatively permanent and representations. Representations are thought to be acquired through learning, where the CNS then stores a set of motor commands. Okay, commands. Stores a set of motor commands. Permanent, okay, could mean that they're imprinted. They're there for you as a schema or a set of rules regarding the execution of a movement response. How you intend to carry out your actions in any environment. I've got them ready. Okay? You can retrieve them. You can think of it that way. They're printed. They're available for you. A couple of examples, open loop control. Okay, this dates back to a lot of the work even in the early 1800s. Into the early 1900s was thought to control quick and ballistic movements. Set of pre-planned instructions, fired, ready to go. Feedback might be available, could be, but it's not used to regulate movement. Sounds pretty good for movements that are really rapid in nature. How are we raising issues with that? Okay. Limited storage within the brain, maybe one of them. How can I have a set of pre-planned instructions for literally everything that you do in life? Think about how we're able to coordinate these degrees of freedom, the different ways in which we can coordinate these degrees of freedom. Okay, open loop control. 1971, atoms, closed loop control. Quite different. It's more of a loop here. Feedback is important, both during and after performance. A comparison through the internal representations. However, this one started to resonate. People realized real quickly this was more for like slow positioning movements. Driving a car, things where there were lots of time to have that feedback come through. 1974, 1975, Richard Smith's schema theory. Okay, thought to kind of eliminate the debate there, where he's going to kind of combine the two together. And that schema, like I talked about earlier, set of rules concerning the execution of a movement response, linked to feedback that happens during and after performance. Allows us to update that representation, or as he put it, update that generalized motor program, GMP. You heard Sean make mention of that during the initial slide. Now, I would say, if we go back to the Iron Man, was it versus Captain America, right? I would say that Captain America was definitely the ecological dynamics framework side. The reason behind why is because Iron Man has Jarvis and then obviously Friday that communicates with him. Okay? Recall, retrieval, communication from a higher learning center while he's carrying out actions. I digress. We can get into that a little bit later. But generalized motor program. Okay, what is a generalized motor program? As Schmidt says, it is a series of subroutines for a given class of actions. Okay, these subroutines are organized in a correct sequence. We can define correct later on in some of our interactions in order to carry out movement behavior. But these classes of actions might be skipping, walking, running. They're a similar class. So to potentially eliminate that storage issue in the brain, we're just storing imprints of that GMP for that class of actions. We're taking in information, or I would even say, in his view, stimuli or cues in the environment to then spark and recall and have recognition, put those together. Now we have a pretty picture. Now we can control our action. The way that this was viewed was that as learners continued to progress, there was more of that open loop control, meaning feedback wasn't necessary as much to coordinate and control our action. Last but not least, and the reason why it's last, even though with Paul Fitz here was around 60, I believe 64, this is probably the one, if you're familiar with any of these, you're probably the most familiar with. Anybody curious before I even go into it as to why, if you're familiar with this one is probably the one you're most familiar with? All right, I should start with, has anybody heard of Fitz stage theory? Show of hands if you've heard of Fitz stage theory. Jeff? Anybody else? A couple? Well, this will be good then. The learning experience, it certainly was for me. Before I go into it, the reason why I believe that you've heard mostly of this, it's the one that is probably the most dominant in literature. It's thought to be associated with information processing. However, I put it last because I do feel there are some strong similarities with this. Also noted in the paper that Sean put up there between Elliott, Anson, and Davids with an ecological dynamics framework. So what is this theory? This theory is the cognitive, the associated, and the autonomous phase, not to be confused with like siloed out but thought to bleed into one another. Cognitive meaning there's a lot of self-talk that's going on through learning. Okay? So lots of cognitions present while learning is unfolding in any type of environment. Think about how that looks for your particular sport or the individuals that you work with. Does that bode well with lots of thinking and moving, or does it constrain the human motor system and start to freeze these degrees of freedom, which could potentially be detrimental to carrying out performance? Associates, the associative stage, okay, less self-talk, a little bit more fluid movement. Moving into the autonomous phase where it's almost like I can execute that action almost without the need for feedback. Not sure to what extent it differs, because learners differ. All of these right here are thought to associate with an IP or an information processing theory. Things that also associate this, not always but most, indirect perception, the need to have an update of a representation or a generalized motor program in the brain, coaching every single rep. There is a correct way to do every single movement, because if I don't hit these biomechanical markers, it is wrong, and you will not be able to carry out your sport on your field. Now we'll unpack this a little bit more as we go, but let's move on. And I want you to try to picture as we're going with this, where that representation lies in the brain that he had to retrieve in order to carry out that function. Because that's something we do on a regular basis. So you notice here, I don't have acquisition, I have the word adaptation. Under an ecological dynamics framework lens, skill adaptation also can be thought of, still is to a certain extent, acquisition, the establishment of a reciprocal functional relationship between the individual and the environment. Ruggiero and colleagues. David was a part of that paper as well. So an adaptive functional relationship where I'm relying as a mover as much on the environment as I am on the thoughts in my head, the cognitions I may have. Now, one thing I do want to make very clear, specifically for the ones of you out there that are familiar with these frameworks and with these theories, is the fact that nowhere in ecological dynamics do we say that cognitions are not present, that intentions are not important. Quite frankly, it's the opposite. Yesterday we spoke about the paper by Jacobs and Michaels where direct learning, okay, information is directly available associated with direct perception by J.J. Gibson and colleagues, is in the environment that specifies the actions we need to make by giving us all we need without the need for extra processing. It specifies time, space, speed, allows us to coordinate our actions based off the relationship, the intertwined processes of perception, of action, of intentions, cognitions. They come into play, but less so than an information processing approach. I want to speak to the fact that there is a difference. You're going to hear the word information start to come out in this next slide. Information, not to be confused with information processing. Information being it's all around us. It's what you choose to do with the information based off of your action capabilities and how you're able to specify information specifying those affordances for action or opportunities or invitations to act. Raise your hand if you've heard the word affordances before. Okay, quite a few, great. So affordances, and I would imagine you guys are familiar. Affordances, they're not just hanging out there in the balance for you. They emerge, they decay rapidly. They're very, very frame dependent. They move quickly, they shift. Space closes. I can't exploit it now. Do I choose to accept that affordance or not? Is it going to be a benefit to me? The affordance of, let's give an example, catchability. Whether it's a football, whether it's a basketball, whether it's a baseball, based off me directly perceiving the specifying information that gives me the catchability in that particular situation based off of cow, time to contact, time to passage, whether I as the individual with my action and my body's scaled affordances am going to be able to reach that point, or whether I may want to reject that affordance because I need to occupy my space in order for the offense to not to score in that particular setting. So just because an affordance is out there does not mean that we as individuals, as organisms, have to accept that affordance. Now, how does this work with this type of framework right here? Does that just mean it's just all kind of like thrown against the wall, hopefully it sticks? Someone thinks so. Doesn't mean there's not key performance indicators within this theory that if you're going to change direction, your center of mass is going to lower. Okay, that's an example of a key performance indicator that I would imagine both sides abide by. Why would not that be beneficial for me as a coach to direct the attention to the midsection of an individual? That's going to give them information they need to coordinate and control their action.